This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon everybody. Welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve in the raining country at the moment where we're sitting here. Looks like there was actually quite a few Impalas running around in this cold. So welcome aboard to your very own safari through the African bush. Good afternoon again everybody. Welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve here in Sabistan, Mpumalanga in the raining country. My name is Andrew. On camera I have David this afternoon. Always remember his name. So we're looking at actually Impala, which they perched themselves in this very beautiful open area, which of course they don't have a choice. Only the two of males that we can see right now, I believe, could be more. It's pouring, a little drizzling out here. I mean, I think it's been like this for the whole day, and we're just gonna see if we can work around it. Sitting on a temperature of 22 degrees today, 71 Fahrenheit. This is where we stand, cloudy, and it's pushing from the south to the north again. The direction of the wind hasn't changed yet. Remember everyone, we're coming to you live from few locations in Africa. Remember to talk to us. They under the age still use kids questions at wildearth.tv. Also on Twitter, hashtag wildearth. As well as in YouTube channel at FC. Also easy to go register on website, Wild Earth website. Head over the live page. You can submit your questions, then we can able to participate with everyone in this raining area. So this is how we're going to be taking you on safari. Windy, pouring rain. Hopefully we get, of course we'll find some animals, even though they will be hiding away from this wind. Where many of Impalas, of course, we may find them in the open area. Some of the other antelope that don't actually really like wind, where they don't trust them. We're also going to find them in the open, busy grouping up, which provide themselves warm. They were able to puff their coat. It's like a jersey on their coat. So this is how they're going to be warm themselves up. So we're going to be working on the southern east in this area, hoping to see cats this afternoon. I know lions was in the area, and then I think we'll be able to visit them later to see how they're doing. I believe they might actually have been moved or still around in the same places. Remember when we mentioned this morning, we will always say that. But sometimes they do get disturbed by any presence of prey species, ran over to their directions, and of course they will stood up and get to hunting them. So we're more likely not to find them in the same place or in the same place. Chris? Yeah, you're right. I'm also hoping, I agree with you so much. You know, weather like this, it can be less of herbivore species sometimes, or you have a chance of seeing more of a cat, which they would be out about and try their hunt. And this is how they will be doing. Oh, we got a more of a rank of impalas and we're right inside. Looks like they're also still in an open area. Yep. Thanks, Dove. So they, as you can see here, I just mentioned earlier that this is a situation, even though they want to be in the thick bushes, but maybe there is no choice. I think their life is so important first. They're rather starving, which they will eat grasses, they won't starve, even though they now have to mix their diet. Get some branches, leaves out of the branches, but this is how they have to do. So they will be grouping around here and they have a chance of survive. We're in quarantine at the moment. The quarantine is actually in a bigger, slightly open area where most antelope really trust to be around here. So yeah, I'm gonna carry on search to the south. I'm gonna be sending you over to a Loring.
Good afternoon, good afternoon. Welcome to a very grey, drizzly day here in Djuma. Hopefully it doesn't get any heavier. If it does, oh, that's going to be trouble. But for now, we shall power through. My name is Lauren, and I do have Simon on camera once again. And I'm just about to arrive at the hyena den. Now, I thought I would be lucky this afternoon because it's colder, but I've now realised, well, it's wet and drizzly and cold. If I was a hyena, I would also... Oh! No. Shh. I take back everything I just said. Okay, let me just position really carefully and make sure I can get a position for Simon because of the rain roof. Oh, no, I forgot we had our flaps down. Okay, let me try this one more time. I think it's Corky. I cannot see anything behind me. We've got our flaps down. There we go. Hello. I think it's Corky at the den, which is truly, truly lovely to see. I could be wrong. And she's obviously nestled right into the den entrance. Corky's got a really... Yep, I think it's Cork's. Quite a damaged left ear, quite a scarred face. So that means her little daughter must be tucked in there as well. Hello, girl. How are you doing on this drizzly day? Water and the dam cam's back up and running. Can you believe it? I just want to say a big thank you to Marcel who did that. Put a lot of effort in to get it up and running for you again. He's a technical genius. Thanks to Marcel. And we're blessed with water. It's not very pleasant to be driving around in, but of course it's very, very important for the environment out here. Now, if you think wet dog smells bad, can you imagine wet hyena? So although today's weather is very different from other days, this sort of builds on what I've been saying about the time schedule, if you like. Everyone started to panic. We've not seen Corky. She's just suckling at different times. That's all. She's one of the lower ranking females. Don't know if she's second from the bottom or bottom, but she'll just be trying to get food in different ways, scavenging, hunting at different times, following different trails. And she obviously just spends time at the den when Wild Earth are not here. It's so good to see her. Catherine, I'm going to guess you're new to the show. Hyenas eat everything. absolutely everything. There is nothing that I know of that they will not eat. Look at that beautiful hibiscus flower growing there, Simon. You see it? Actually, that's a really good point. They probably would not eat a hibiscus flower and they wouldn't eat vegetation, but they eat all all animals, from reptiles to fish to birds to amphibians to mammals. They eat very rotten, putrid carcasses. They eat anything that's in our garbage bin, and I mean anything, even almond milk. Yes, almond milk. Simon loves almond milk, don't you, Si? No, it's mine. But really, they're very opportunistic. They'll eat anything. They're also known as bone crushers because they really do crunch through and eat bones. They have such a high level of calcium. One of the main reasons that their scat is white, or it turns white, and another reason that their milk that they produce for their offspring is so incredibly rich. They really will eat anything. So opportunistic. I've actually seen a very, very old, rotten, liquefied tortoise and a hyena come and lap it all up. But they're just predators. They're opportunistic. No need to be fussy. Gorky, what are you doing? But she's raised a fine and fierce daughter, that's for sure. Her daughter is one of the most popular cubs at this den by humans and hyenas. Everybody seems to love her. Okay, we're going to sit here as long as we can. This is very precious. And we're going to send you across to one of the tallest land animals.
Good afternoon and welcome to and Beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. We've just came across this beautiful male giraffe who's just slowly feeding on this tree here. You can tell by looking at the size of the trees, it's quite a popular tree. It's been fed upon quite a bit, and lucky enough for this giraffe, he can reach right to the top of this tree. My name's Pete, and behind the camera we have Odie, and this afternoon we got really, really wonderful weather here at Phinda. Really nice and overcast compared to some of the other reserves around here. There's quite a bit of rain this afternoon. Well, this giraffe's getting a nice scratch from those dead branches on the tree as well. Look as he walks away at that beautiful whip of a tail he's got there, just swashing away those flowers. Obviously not such a palatable tree. He just had a few bites there and moving on to the next one. We're going to try and keep up with him. Just going to go forward slightly. I love how majestically they walk, so gracefully. Yeah. Oh, here's another beautiful male we've just come across now. Look how much dark he is compared to the one we were just watching. You can also tell by the tops of his horns, it's quite a lot more bare. I'm going to go forward a bit.
Sorry, Phinda. So here we got a very interesting bird, which is a southern ground hornbill, which they actually mobile along the road over here. I believe this time of a rain like this, nobody likes to be in the grasses. You know, even cats, if there is a time they're around here, you're probably going to find them maybe up trees, maybe on the road. So we just keep closer with this. No, they might maybe not allow us to be close to them much, but southern ground hornbill, they always like to forage on the ground. So for their hunt, which they would hunt from anything, snakes, snails, tortoises, those type, and they will be eaten. Lizards, and this is what they're about to hunt right now. And it's so cool that, you know, they are mobile during the day only, and then at night they would just gonna roost up in trees. Sorry about that, guys. We're just gonna sometimes, you know, because here it's raining, so the lands kind of pick up some rain, so we're trying to maneuver so that we can have a clear look at these animal birds. They're sometimes in group of 4 up to 7 sometimes. And a very strong beak, as you can see there. All their hunt they do. Cattle. So you want to know how they actually make sound, like kind of like deeply ground sounds. Mostly when you hear them, you would think they are lined somewhere. And then they almost, especially early in the morning, wherever they're nesting, they're more likely to make sound every morning. So that's actually I cannot make it really, but that is actually a sound that they make. So pretty good. It is actually a song they make. You know, cultures always believe that it's all about, you know, somebody mourning amongst them, that so you're eating all food without me, and because they don't actually want to share, especially since they feed on the very small things like lizard and things like that, snakes, and except when they are, you know, feeding their chicks. So they will able to bring or teach their young one to able to feed on this type of food. They can fly also. And when I see them do that fly, it looks like a turkey when they do that. So they fly very much. They have actually kind of like white on their underneath of the edge of the wings. So let's keep up with them. But this is actually hunting. So they won't probably go into grasses, like I said, it's wet. So we're going to try stay far as much as we can further distance, and we can keep the sight going for them. You find maybe they're from the group where sometimes if the female, she's on a nest and there is other member who go hunt, and they're trying to get away from us, but sorry bird, got you. So the nest will be on fog or holes in trees, fogs, and then they occupy that. More likely to return to if they have actually quite a few nests where they use during their activity around, during their movement. I only bet it looks like got something there. It's gonna go off there. Lee, I agree. It's amazing how they're actually out about and going around here. So they actually visiting quite a lot of, you know, animals' dung, like an elephant dung. So there's a little bit of sometimes worms and these small beetles. They would go about, feed on them. But again, they need to keep up together that don't actually. It looks like they're flying right now. Look at that. Look at this. I think is a good way then. I'm just gonna see if we can see them nice from here. But that one is already up in the tree. Did you see those wings? See that? I just mentioned the age of these wings is showing a lot of white. This is how you would be able to identify them from the air when they fly. And the male and the female would have the same color, even under the wings. Only the difference is that the female should have a, bright, kind of a bluish under just between this wattle and the beak, where the beak begins, along the throat, just a little. That's how you're able to distinguish the difference between the male and the female. And it's so cool because also you have a pair breed on this bird as well. I didn't actually have a nicer look at these, whether it's one female or male or both of them you found it's a male. In fact, that one I can able to have a look at it. We're trying to balance. Cobra. So you want to know what kind of animal would eat ground hornbill. So if they get close to the leopard, off they go. So they will be eaten pretty much by any of carnivore species. Also these python, if they pose themselves close by to those, of course they will get eaten. If leopard get hold of them, of course also they still get eaten. If they fly away from the lions, they still get eaten as well. Those are small cats as well as the sable. If they don't get away from them, the caracal will still eat them. But they are so clever, or always making sure that they save their lives and making sure that they move away from the danger immediately. And they actually have a problem with their habitations, which is the only thing disturb their lives wherever. So since they have flied away, I'm going to carry on, check the southern boundary for a cat.
Simon's given you the most beautiful views of the rain and the clouds over Buffelshoek, away up in the north. That's what's on the horizon there, Buffelshoek. Now Corks is still here. I saw a glimpse of her cub, but other than that, it's all very quiet. Now, I mentioned this morning, but I think we may have lost signal. There was a young skittish male found on Buffelshoek this morning on a kill. And I think this is the male that's been seen quite a lot, and nobody knows who he is yet, per se, sort of on the radio, and he appears to be very skittish. So we may scratch around a little bit later and see if we can see him, because our camera can view him from a distance compared to the other vehicles. Maybe just try to get an indication of who he is, exactly how skittish he is, and view him from quite far away. So that's the plan, but I'm just going to stay at the den a little bit longer, because I've not seen corks in a while, and we never know who else is going to show up. The animals just have to wait out the rain. They can't hide indoors under the duvet like we can. Although the cubs are probably hiding under their duvets inside, to be fair. They maybe came out a bit earlier, but they've gone back inside again. It's not heavy rain, it's just a constant drizzle. That before you even blink, it's soaked everything. And this will nourish the ground, nourish the vegetation. Peter, it doesn't look like it. It depends what direction the rain is blowing, how heavy it is, if there's wind. If the rain was blowing to the south, then yes, I guess it would drizzle into the den. But you can see there's a white patch behind Corky's head. So a funny feeling it's not moving that way. But it's not that heavy. It wouldn't cause any damage into the den. It's a lot deeper than we realise. There's 6 little cubs in there. And a few of them not so little anymore, to be honest. It's deep. And it's probably very intricate. I think there'll be lots of tunnels and little burrows and spaces inside. And of course there's another hole at the other side. An exit hole, if you like. Another dentrance. Or dexit. But yes, it really depends on what kind of rain you've got. But right now it's very, very light. It's just a drizzle. And to be fair, Corks doesn't look that wet or soggy. And you can see the birds are all still calling. I'm sure you can hear them. So it's not wet enough to bring everything to a sort of standstill. Normally in the heavy torrential downpours, it'll be extremely quiet because everything's trying to avoid the rain, and you also can't hear anything over the rain. Samantha, you're asking, do the adults prefer to use the den?
Take 10.
I think you'll have to repeat that one. Gwyn? Take turns to use the den. They're not actually using it. It's a communal space. Hyenas have a very sort of detailed and complicated social structure, a hierarchy. So they're not really using it. They just come here to see their cubs. But if you mean, are they all using the little space that Corky's in right now? I guess they do. I've seen them all use it, all the mothers. But then we've also seen everybody here at the same time. So they don't take turns. Anyone can come to this space anytime they like it. It's a communal area for the Juma clan. And normally they avoid this den. Oh look, we've got the closest relative of the hyena on top. Do you see that, Simon? A dwarf mongoose sitting on top, looking down at Corky. Oh, it's just disappeared. Hold on. Okay, we'll try and find that dwarf mongoose for you again. But for now, we're going to send you across to some cheetah on a kill. Or possibly not. I think you might still be with us. You are still with us. Where did that little dwarfie go? So there must be dwarf monkeys using this mound as well. That's the first time I've seen that. We saw the termites streaming out the other day. But there must be a group of mongoose also using this mound, or the upper part of the mound. It's hiding. I don't know if it's hiding from... Oh, Simon, you got it. I'm too busy looking for it with my naked eye. There you go. There's the cousins of the hyenas. The closest relatives. Peekaboo. The low-felled smallest carnivore, yet equally ferocious. I've never seen mongoose use this mound before. It surprises people when they hear that about the mongoose being the hyenas' closest relatives. I didn't catch that name, but you're asking what time of the day do they scavenge? I don't think they have a schedule, to be honest. And they don't just scavenge. They hunt. They're remarkable. And I don't think any organism out here really has a specific time. But they are essentially nocturnal. So you will find hyenas active during the day. But generally speaking, especially in summer when it's far too hot, for especially mammals covered in hair, you will find that they sleep all day, seek shade, try and stay cool, wallow, and then at night time they'll hunt and scavenge. So hyenas are primarily nocturnal hunters and scavengers. But again, they're opportunistic, so it really does depend on what they come across and when. For example, Sutu this morning with Sabui, she was obviously just on a little stroll and came across that wonderful scent of Sabui's kill in the tree. So now we are going to send you across to those cheetahs on a kill.
Welcome back to And Beyond Pinda. We just come across something really, really special here. I'm sure if you guys have been watching recently, you might have seen these 5 cheetah around. For the last few days, they've been looking really, really hungry, and some exciting news to see they've caught an Impala ram. Really, really, really impressive for them to have caught this. For 10 months old cheetah, it's quite a catch. If you look in the background, there's one of them just resting, not even having anything to eat. He's still panting really heavily. Maybe he's still tired from the chase. You can imagine it must have been quite a chase through all this thicket that's around us here. If you look at those 2 cheetah on the right-hand side, also the one on the left, they've got their heads kind of just around where the stomach is. You can see that stomach's quite swollen there. And with cheetah, they very, very carefully eat around the stomach and try not to puncture it. You can imagine with them being so small and at risk of other predators smelling the carcass, they try not puncture that, because as soon as that's punctured, the other predators in the area could pick up on that smell and rush here, and obviously they would be able to chase these cheetah off this carcass. It's also the reason that they're eating so quickly. You can see they're scavenging as fast as they can, trying to engulf as much as they can before anything else picks up that there's a dead animal around here. You can also see that one on the left has just stood up now, really high alert. Something I love watching as well. If you just watch their tails there, their tails are just swishing from side to side. You can just see how happy they are. And thanks, Rory. Yeah, we're also very chuffed, very happy about this. It's really, really great news. The one on the left seems the most concerned about other predators around. You can see he's having a few bites and then looking around. Zandri, those animals have been located. You can take standby 3. Ross, just stand by. Look at that blood on the one that's sitting up now. You won't see it there for too much longer. They're very clean animals. You can see they're constantly licking their mouths, but I think as they're feeding now, they're keen to rather concentrate on just getting as much as they can in before grooming themselves and getting that blood off. You can see the one's just gone out the back now to face the other direction. Sassy Cassie, it's just a lot nicer for them to hunt during these overcast days. Cats don't have sweat pores like you and I. They have to exert their heat through their mouths. So that's often why you see on a hot day they'll be panting with their mouths open like that. So you can imagine on a cooler day like today, they could control their body temperature a little bit better. They wouldn't have to rest as much, and they can tend to be a little bit more active. Also, if it is raining and quite windy, the animals that they might prey on might be a little bit more sidetracked. The rain might dull their hearing a little bit, and the wind also could work to the cheetah's advantage if they were to hunt. The one in the back now just rejoining, can't resist. Those delicious looking ribs, I'm sure, in their eyes. Look at that one that's just standing up at the back now, face covered in blood. So hopefully this Impala ram will last them a couple of days before they'd have to hunt again. But I'm sure they've learnt a lot of lessons out of this hunt. Every day that they grow older and older, they'll be learning more techniques and new strategies on hunting. See that one at the back now is also out of breath. If you look at the cheetah on the left there, you can see it's turning his cheek and using those side teeth that they call gnashes to cut through the skin there, and just to get to a little piece of meat that they haven't quite got to just yet. They don't have molars like you are. They have to use their specific teeth to rip off chunks and swallow them. They don't chew their meat. Yeah, really beautiful. I know I mentioned it earlier, but just if you look on the right-hand side, that tail just swishing from side to side, that's often just a sign of their satisfaction, and that they're very content with their catch and probably with the weather as well. And I'm not sure if you can see just in the background there's a timbertie in the way, but you can see there's a yellow-billed kite coming in. Holistic, they won't always stick as a family. There's 3 males in this group and 2 females. The males are more likely to stick together and form a coalition, and probably in about 8 months' time, at around a year and a half to 2 years, that's when they'll form that coalition, and then the females will go off on their own and be independent. You can imagine 3 males together is quite a force to be reckoned with. On the reserve at the moment, the biggest coalition we have is just 2, so might take them a few years, but they would surely become the dominant coalition, at least in the southern part of the reserve. Yeah, so we might sit here for a little while, watch them feeding, and I'm sure as they move off, they might go and try and find an open area and move away from this carcass, especially with other predators that might be able to smell it. But I hear Andrew has found another cat with spots that's also caught something.
So cool. So from cheetah, hoping for them to find a rest, and now we on a leopard sighting over here, everyone. As you can see, you actually have to stop far distances, and there's actually another vehicle which they're slightly closer there, and you may have a little bit of a talk in the background, so I'm not only one in sighting, but it's a Sibui the leopard. With looks like a young impala. They say the kill is there. It's cool. Oh, if you listen to that kind of a sound coming from the background, that's an impala. It's not a predator, it's an impala trying to vocals, probably the dominant actions and chasing one another. One of these dominating males would make that sound. But she's very much looking out for it. And it's a perfect spot where she is right now. Even though that branches is kind of like up, then she got it, I think she faces downwards. But it's only for a feeding in there. And it was a glimpse of hyena underneath. But we cannot see it right now or take you through it right now. It comes out again to the open or visible. It's probably maybe Vixen. You want to know how big is a prey leopard can host up in trees. So sometimes equal weight, which Impalas sometimes weigh 55, 60 kilogram, which a female leopard would weigh anything from 55 similar, but she will be able to bring her pretty much equal weight, size of prey up in trees. We're talking about a female. Male would even more than powerful than a female anyway. So there it looks like was a young impala that's trying to finish off. I hope she doesn't actually lose it because there was a hyena there. If that meat ever dropped down, then she forget about it. It's going to be gone. Hyena will take it. So now she moved. Let's see if we can reposition here. because he's moving, probably changing direction or position. Probably killed it maybe last night. You know, was a lot of opportunity for cats to hunt and successful because it was windy. Yeah. So there's a hyena there. All right, we can. Here it's actually a lot of lineup, but I'll see if I will stick around for another look at this animal while we.
Is Rusty. He's my favorite vehicle and we've been through all the good times here in the bush. Now if you feel a connection to Djuma Game Reserve like I do, then we have a fantastic opportunity for you. You can have your name engraved on a brushed metal plaque just like this one, and we will attach it to Rusty so you can always be with us on safari in spirit. We will even send you a digital photograph once your plaque is mounted on Rusty. Spaces are limited, so grab your spot now.
Goodness, look at its wobbly legs. Oh, I don't believe it. I can't believe we've actually seen it. Oh my goodness. Oh, careful, careful, careful. Oh no. Oh, it's okay, little one. Okay.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
Hello everyone, I am Yapi and I am a safari guide at Anbion Ngala. My favorite animal is the lion because 99% of the time it doesn't do anything. And the 1% of the time it does, it's just awesome.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth. Have you been watching Wild Earth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. Wild Earth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live Wild Earth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back, everyone. These 5 cheetahs still at it, still going, still feeding on this Impala carcass. You can see they're still very, very nervous and just very cautious. There have been some lions in this area, so it's possible that they might be picking up on the scent of them, and that might also be making them quite nervous. You can see now they've almost finished the back half of that Impala ram. Something gave them a bit of a fright there. Yeah, so much blood on their faces now. I think as they're getting towards the bottom of that rib cage, there might be a little pool of blood there that they're getting caught inside. But if you look at this one on the right, he hasn't been feeding there near the rib cage, so his face is still quite clean. Thanks for the question, Jacqueline. So, yeah, they lost their mum, so about 4 months ago. So they've had to become very, very independent, but they rely on each other a lot. So you can still see they've got quite a close bond, and they rely on each other for almost everything, for protection, for hunting, and also for warmth on cold days. So they certainly do have more independence than a cub that would be with their mother still, but they still rely heavily on each other. You can see how while 3 of them are feeding, the other 2 are on the lookout. They definitely are recovering from eating so much, but they're also on the lookout and they might take turns to do that as well. One will come and feed, and then one will leave to be on the lookout. It's amazing to see as well, just watching them now, that fur on the back of their neck there is still really, really long and goes all the way, almost halfway down their backs, just showing their youth, which is amazing. And this amazing accomplishment of catching an Impala ram, and by the looks of that horn, it looks like quite a big ram. Really decent sized meal for them. You can see that one on the left is using its gnashes again, trying to get to that little piece of meat at the bottom of those ribs, trying to rip that skin open. And that stomach that we mentioned earlier, still unpunctured, still whole, and starting to get quite bloated now. The one closest to us now has got half the femur on top of its head. They're just popping out now. Probably trying to get to the hamstring there. So we're going to carry on sitting here for a while, and we're going to send you back to Andrew with his leopard.
Thanks for that. Since cheetah, they're actually ground animal. And then now what we got here, again, I was buoyed the leopard up in the trees. Such an amazing. Now we got birds arriving from the background there. Looks like all raisins, shrikes. They probably amazed or trying to, shocked. Because all birds maybe, every time they see a leopard, because they actually sometimes get killed by leopards, many of birds. So they will shout at the leopard, and they will shout at the snakes. Oh, those are dangerous, most of them. They're probably going to shout at them, and this is actually warning the other animals that are around, other birds that are around. They won't get along with an owl, they won't get along with an eagle, as long as it's another predator to them. Now she changed position from where she was. There, I think meat is not comfortable because it's hooked both sides, balance. One just gonna slip her down. Looks like there's still a lot of meat there for her. She's probably gonna be here if nothing happened. She'll be here probably all night. It's not hot. Water's nearby. Cheetah Dam, or even there before there, it's a lot of puddle of water. Mile. That depends. So you're asking when would she eat again after this meal? That's depend, if availability of food around here, but they have a lot of advantage of getting another prey down again. If, for example, she finished during this weather like this, then she'll probably gonna take it easy. She won't push too much on hunt for probably a day, but the next day, probably she will. And drove by the energy of the weather, where it's now they don't get tired at all. But of course, when it's hot, 2 days, just because of they don't have to push too much on hunting. Spend 2 days after they eaten decent meal. By the third day, see that leopard will push too much on a hunt again. But understand that anything that comes across, the leopard would kill 2 prey species close by if it's possible. Doing that not knowing what the next meal will be available for that cat, so they can do as much as they can. 3 kills they can, if it's possible. And they can able to switch, depend which one they're gonna start from. And if finally, if it's too hot, the third kill then is gonna rot maybe, but up in trees, eventually the eagle will visit those ones, and the vultures feed from that branches. But they don't waste food for sure. See, she's actually plucking the fur off. So you're asking what other predators can climb and still that kill another leopard. You know, the same species of animal, but also the lion can get up there. That is not actually height far away from the lion. Lion can climb that easily, get into the fog. I see there's a lot of fog in this little tree here, which will make it a lot easy for lion. Once that lions manage to get to the first fog, and the second one, it's actually close by, and this is when the meat will be stolen from there. But other than that, no one else. The third one, no. Only the two of them, lions and the other leopard. A hyena, they can only get it when that meat is down. They can't climb trees. And the vulture cannot try to flush her off that kill. They'll probably perch around here if they're around, those eagles, until the meat is done. And hopefully, you know, they will perch in there, investigate for remain of all skin, anything that left behind. Actually chopping theirs. So this feeding situation, she will actually feed right now. Once she get enough, she will just gonna take it easy, relax, digest, and then when hunger take place again, this is when she goes up. We're lucky when we get here feeding, because a lot of time, you know, you just get there to the kill, and then that leopard already just fed on that kill and then resting far away from that kill. So I'm gonna try stay put here. If I don't get pushed by the other guys, for me to move off, but let me send you over to Lauren with a leopard.
Everyone, you're not going to believe it. We've got him. We've got this skittish, unknown male leopard. Now, we've positioned ourselves very, very, very far away, because I've heard he's skittish. I'm just going to do this really slowly, on approach, on approach. Now, all you leopard experts, help me. He's been called in as unknown. I don't immediately recognize him. He's been called in as a male. I also don't immediately see testicles, but this is the only information that I've got, and we're viewing him from quite a distance. And if this visual is anything to go by, he's looking at us. So I thought we'll give you a long distance visual so that you can at least screenshot, help me out here, and then slowly but surely we'll try and move just a little bit closer. But I don't want to scare him. Oh. If he's not habituated, then he's not habituated, but I don't know who he is. And I wasn't sure we were going to get signal here, but you know me, I like to take risks. He's got a kill, I believe. So I wonder if he's climbing up to that. Okay. Let's try and go a little bit forward, Simon. I don't know how easy this is going to be, and I don't know if we're going to see him again. But there you go, we saw him. I know there's a road going down here. We're near Sydney's Dam on Buffelshoek, everyone, just to give you some indication of where we are. I also don't want, I'm going to go in low range. They say that low range is easier for the animals. exciting. He's okay. Let's just take him from here. He's back down in that perch again. At least we're a little bit closer. Can you get him from here, Simon? Sorry, it's not easy. Yep, he's came back down to the same position. He's watching us. Hello? Who are you? It's a very strange feeling for me to see. I don't see testicles. I'm not trying to be vulgar, it's just normally it's very easy to identify a male because you can see immediately. Leopards are generally elusive and shy in nature. This is completely normal for a leopard. What we experience in the Sabi Sands is something very special. I'm not sure if this is a male, or maybe maybe we're just too far away. We are going to try and get closer, but just bit by bit. Let this individual get used to us. We're here. Most likely can hear my voice. They've got an incredible sense of hearing. Let them relax. And then slowly but surely we'll go forward. Oh, wow. Okay, so it is a young male. Oh. And James Richard, you're saying it's the same one that Tristan has had recently. But other than that, I'm not sure we have any more info. It's very strange not knowing the leopard. Must be quite... Ah, yes, I see the genitalia now. Okay. It's a very young male. Okay, so if we just sit here, this view's perfect. We can just spend a little bit of time here. We've got signal. And we're quite close to the western Manguleti border, just above Sydney's Dam, just north of Sydney's Dam. So we could have really come from anywhere. But on the radio, he is called in as skittish. It's not fair for us to sort of bombard our way in. But leopards move more often than we think. So leopards, as I mentioned, are generally shy, generally elusive. They can pass through areas and we'll never know. We're only used to the ones that are territorial. And we follow mothers, we follow cubs, we follow territorial males. And therefore we know where to find them, we know who it is. But I think a lot more leopards pass through this area than we realise, especially now that we can traverse Bufosuk and we can traverse Torchwood, as well as Simbambili, and as well as Chitwa. A leopard could easily just pass through. Look at him. Stunning. He's definitely watching us, for sure. We're really far away. I would say about 100 metres. What would you say, Sai? Yeah, 100 metres. No, more than that. I'm really bad at judging distance, but he's far away, but he's still got his eyes on us. Their vision's said to be about 7 times better than ours anyway. Tandy, I think I just touched on that, but leopards are generally shy and elusive. They're not... The leopards that we see here, your Tandy, your Sabui, that's with Andrew right now, Klalamba, Tingana, Hukamuri, they've just become very habituated to vehicles because they've spent time around vehicles since they were a cub. It's called habituation. But normally, leopards are solitary. They're camouflaged. They spend a lot of times in the trees avoiding everything. By nature, leopards are elusive. It's not easy to spend time with them. It's just in this particular area and other areas, they've just become habituated to the vehicles and therefore they're not threatened by them. But this is obviously a young male that maybe he's just not habituated yet. Maybe his mother was extremely skittish. Maybe he's had a bad incident with a vehicle. I really don't know. They learn a lot from their mother. So if their mother reacts to everything, including vehicles, maybe she had a bad incident, then that will filter down. They also say that I believe Mawati's mother was quite skittish. But he's fine now. We've kept our distance. I knew he was here. He got called in and I thought I'm going to risk it. But I knew I had to approach really, really slowly. So maybe in the next 10 minutes or so, we'll turn our engine back on. But we don't need to go close. We've got perfect views. Wow. I'm not used to seeing a leopard that I don't know. I can't see a kill though, can you, Simon? I didn't catch that name, but you're saying he looks so lonely. Oh, I think he's just relaxing. He's just enjoying this big fat branch in the marula tree and taking it easy. But yes, leopards live a lonely life, I guess. They're solitary. From the minute they leave mom, for a male that's normally around 2 years old, they're on their own until they find a female to mate with, and that's it. And even for females, once they disperse, they're on their own until they, of course, mate with a male and then have offspring. So really, I guess, yeah, they do live a lonely existence. Or a strong, independent one. I'm going to switch that phraseology up and say they live a very strong, independent existence out here. They navigate the landscape completely solitary. They establish social dominance on their own. Not with a pride, a pack, a clan. On their own, they're able to establish themselves as dominant and claim a territory, claim an area purely for selfish reasons to say, this is mine. These resources, this area, this land, all the females in it, it's mine. It's incredible. They scent mark alone, they call alone, they scrape alone, they find ladies alone, they follow chemical signals alone. It's remarkable. Especially a mother. No offense to the male leopards, but a mother who's rearing and raising offspring is not only looking after herself, she's looking after her offspring, getting food for them, ensuring that she's had enough food in order to produce quality milk, protecting them, stashing them away in hidden places, teaching them. I read a really interesting article today about teaching, and I use that word really loosely, in the animal kingdom. And how we very much thought of it as a human concept and a human thing that we do. We teach our young, we teach others around us. Kind of ignored the fact that it definitely happens in the animal kingdom too, even in insects. There's a wonderful study, I won't go too much into it, about bees and how they actually prove that bees teach one another, and ants. And mothers teach young. Yes, they don't stand in front of a blackboard and use chalk and, well, go through the ABCs, but there's different types of teaching. And a lot of mammalian species, at least, they learn by watching, observation. We will do what mom does. Just like Hart's little cubs. They're acting dominant because they've seen mom act dominant. They raise their tail because mom raises their tail. He's still staring at us, I think. I'll wait till he relaxes a bit again until I go forward. But this is how the habituation process starts. You just spend time with the animal, you talk. He gets used to the sight of our bulky vehicle with its rain roof on. He gets used to the sounds of human voices. He can probably smell it from here. The smell of the petrol and the fluids and all the sort of scents that come with a car. Are you showing off now? Because, yes, we all think you're very handsome. We do. Mm-hmm. Josh, it doesn't actually assist in a hunt, not like a cheetah. So a cheetah's tail, which is very different, is specialized. It's an adaptation for the phenomenal speeds that they run at. Now, imagine running at that speed and you keep your head incredibly still. Probably going to need a rudder at some point, some sort of rudder that's going to anchor you when you're turning a corner, or at least making a slight bend in your movement. And that's what a cheetah's tail does. But for a leopard, it doesn't do anything during the hunt. They use it as communication, definitely. They communicate to other leopards, intraspecific. They communicate to other organisms, interspecific. They use it for their offspring, but it's not something that they use in hunts. Leopards lay low to the ground. They try and blend into the vegetation. They try and camouflage. They try and get as close to their prey as they can before launching an attack. They rely on the element of surprise. The minute that they're spotted, I laugh every time I say that. It's really not that funny. But the minute they're spotted, it's really game over. And we watched Hosanna do that many times, because he's got to learn at that age. When he was younger, he's got to learn. If he's been seen, it's not going to result in success. I think he's relaxing a lot more now. Tails in the animal kingdom also protect genitalia. And I read a funny quote. I was reading an article about tails because I wanted to understand the evolutionary sort of tree of tails and the use of them. And it said, tails are like opinions. Basically, everyone has them. Is that funny, Simon? He's not laughing, he's giving me a sympathy chuckle. But basically, as you get closer to humans on this sort of evolutionary tree, they do disappear. Gorillas don't have them, and neither do chimps or apes. But otherwise, yeah, I thought you would like that quote. Now I'm going to try and get a little bit closer, and when you come back to us, we'll dig a little bit deeper into tails.
Thanks, Lauren. So from the leopard, now we got a, looks like breeding herd, nice breeding herd of elephants right here. And it's actually quite nice and open, where they just started to come out about from the bushes. Look at these young one, right in between these bigger one. Still trying to sneak in there, probably for a milk. The only way the young one were able to drink is when the female, the mother static, and then when she does that, she has to pause so that the young one can sneak underneath. Remember, the teats actually under the leg or front legs, and then allows the young one to be able to drink. Only when she's static. It means that when the animal's moving, elephants, never a chance for the young one to drink milk. How it's actually well protected, these young ones. So with 3 vehicles around here, but they kind of like very much comfortable. Look at that tiny. And it's so cool there. It's just enjoying grasses. And then all you hear is the trunk getting rid of grasses, put in her mouth. So I'm going to try stay put with our elephants.
He jumped down, I'm afraid. We got a little bit closer and he was fine, and then he jumped down. So I think I'm just going to sit here. I know it's not relatively exciting, but A, habituation's important, and 2, or B, I just want to see if he does relax and he does come back. I did hear he had a kill. Maybe we can scan the tree, Simon, now that we're a little bit closer. I've got our rain roof on, so it doesn't really make ideal viewing conditions, but if there's a kill in the tree, then most likely we'll come back. I don't see anything dead there. Nope. But don't worry, we're still very far away. I mean, we didn't push it. But he's obviously just not entirely comfortable. I don't see a kill. But he was found this morning on this tree, and he's returned back to this tree, and he was seen earlier at this tree. I wonder if he's just hiding down there somewhere. Okay, so I'm going to sit here for maybe just 10 minutes longer, follow this story, and hopefully our skittish boy will come back. But for now, we're going to send you across to Andrew with the herd of elephants.
Good luck, Lauren. Here we still have our nice breeding herd of elephants. As we can all see that they have come now out completely. They're in this open area. And then I'm not sure, they probably won't stay long. They're actually on move right now. They're moving down to the drainage line system. So we're actually uphill. So which means if they move further down where they're actually heading east at the moment. But it's cool that, they finally came out to their higher point. And it's nice and open. Wherever it's actually matriarch here, which I think of the one that's actually right on. Yeah, past that marula tree, I would think of the one that actually right there as a matriarch. When I look at them all, looks like she's actually slightly bigger than them all, or maybe could be more of them that we can't see then. Quite a few young male mixed up here. Those are still age of anything from 8, 10 years, and they're probably about to be maybe moved out of this herd. So they would come independent. Independent means they would probably go join their uncles and their father, where they already have separated or they have formed their bachelor group away from the breeding herd. With the temperatures they're on right now, or we on, if you look at them, they're actually Peter, so you want to know how many elephants in the herd? That depends. So I've seen a number of elephants from 10, 15, 30, and possibly 40. I've seen actually over 40, 50 in a herd. But, a lot of time we come across anything from 13, 15, 18 of them. Sometimes, they actually big animals in a herd. There's a chance they're sometimes separated. The whole group of maybe 50, 20 move separate way, and they have to establish their own pathway or wherever they go around, but they communicate, they rejoin again because they're part of this one group. So herd again, it forms by all related members in there. Mothers, daughters, grandchild, grandson, those that are still young. This is what forms the herd now. So I was about to explain that, flapping ears now is not happening quite a lot because the temperature is great with the weather. Where during a hot day, then you see them flap their ears quite a lot because of cool off. It's always so cool to see an elephant in an open area, because you have a chance to actually see the whole background and what they're about, feeding. Now, this is all about grasses, what they're taking off. So they can't wait for these marula fruits to ripe. And they're all just going to run around so much. You will see lots and lots of herds coming in from different areas. Perry, so you're asking how much food do elephants eat a day? Anything from 250, 300 kilogram a day for big elephant. So this is what they need a daily basis. But also remember, they actually spend a lot of time setting up feed, and less time for them to rest or sleep. And then of course, with a mix of these young ones here, they would probably gonna take it easy somehow where it's cool for them, where wind doesn't blow much, and then they were probably just gonna take it easy, lazy around, but feed. And these young ones, only a chance that they will go down, sleep, maybe an hour. And they carry on to move again. You know, summer, it's always so cool for such a big animals like this, because then it's a plenty of grass. They only choose which area they have to be. If it was in the winter, they would come out, but then they would probably interested on tubers, which they have to dig from there to get it under the ground. They're good at that. And they spend lots and lots of hours to get the amount of food they need in the winter, because it's there, but it's not actually available always when they go. They need to go to places where they know most. They would get those type of food. Dominic, so you're asking what unusual things with an elephant I ever seen them do. For sure, since I understand so much of elephants, and the one thing I would recommend, the thing they do that I actually was my first time to witness this. It's one of the elephants that actually died just after birth. And that elephant died right close to the lodge I was at. So when I seen that happen there, they spent a whole month coming in an area, but off again. So maybe they would come twice a day, but the whole month, and they know it's already gone. It's already, the young one died, and the hyena eat them. But for them to forget, it's not easy. They have kind of memory, almost like a human being, but we even clever more than them sometimes, but they have this good memory of not to forget quite easily. So that was actually an unusual thing. And then what they do when they arrive into the death scene where the member have died, they're all just going to approach, but carefully when you see them do that, it looks like they all seen something strange. But this is kind of respect of getting in there. And they're all just going to group around together. It looks like maybe they're sharing kind of like a small watering hole to drink, but this is where they're sniffing around. The whole group, if they're 20 or 50, they all get around in that area. So that was an amazing. And I never seen that again. Maybe I will in future, but that was my best sighting or best experience of this animal, to see them do things like that. So I'm gonna have to try move slowly so that we keep sighting of this beautiful herd of elephants. Oh, this is one of the bigger female here that I didn't actually see. She's actually following from the far end. So she's one of the bigger one here. And I always mention the one was leading on front. See next, so on elephants, matriarch, actually it's an old and experienced female that she knew exactly how to get around. And then how that comes about is that, it started from the family reunion there, as they all just unite and carry on with their lives. Doesn't matter how many of them there, but it's got to be one matriarch, where that it's other matriarch has been going for years and years, but change. Whenever that matriarch die, it's always an assistant, which is a senior female that is in the area, grouping with them. So she died, and then the senior female, she will carry on, lead the herd. That way, in the meantime, then it would be chosen one. If she had a daughter or another older female in the group, that will be chosen there as a senior. Once the senior, now it's matriarch. So it's always controlled here, and they all respect that. And that's why when you see them sometimes separate, it's always either one, two group have split, and the lead by the senior female, and the other one with the matriarch. And those are the ones that now know exactly how they do, where they find each other. And operational range, quite big, but they're able to maneuver around. If they're lost in contact, which they will continuously communicate until they communicate of each other's again. So we'll see now, the one she was riding in the end, if that is in the matriarch, see where she's going. Yeah, this young one is probably following the other one that was right in the end. If they're going to change back towards us again, it will mean is that the matriarch was the one that was far in the end. They're going to have to follow where she goes. So elephants, their mood is quite very different to most other animals. They sometimes, get irritated from their mind by sometimes, especially bulls on mast. So looking for what he needs, finding females, and he's stressed of being on mast, which means must find females though. And then of course they're not around, so when they're in that mood of must as a bull, they lost control of themselves. Sometimes they become very angry towards any company around, cars, other animals being chased off. So except, for presence of human being close to them, for other animals trying to irritate them, that's for that bull, he would irritate it from being in mast. But other than that, these young male also, they will sometimes freak out the herd. And they all sudden trumpet, just because young too much on the young one, which they already now coming independently. They have to move out of the group. So you see then their behavior can change while you're there, but it's not you, it's just among themselves. But in the end, you can be part of it, because now once they lost that controlled temper, they would go for anything is nearby. Yeah, so it's quite a few things that actually can irritate them without human interfering. Okay, now looks like we know which one is a matriarch already. As you see, they're all turning around, facing way. The last one, the female that was right in the end, she's pushing towards the dam right now, where it looks like all of them will push down to the dam side. Not down to that drainage line where I expect them to be. And it's so cool. They're actually very much protective animal. They always worried about their lives. Even it's so big, can freak out with a small thing, and just for safety. And I'm gonna try stick with this animal.
My name is Taylor McCurdy, and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced, and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
For the month of January 2021, we are offering a chance to win a unique Wild Earth expedition to the magnificent Tswalu Kalahari. From the ancient Kortai's Koranenberg Mountains to the southern Kalahari's red sand dunes, Tswalu offers what travelers crave most: space and time. The winner will explore this landscape in a vehicle, on foot, or on horseback, with a chance to go behind the scenes with Wild Earth and of course meet the meerkats. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend at the luxury Motse Lodge, including flights from either Johannesburg or Cape Town. Open to all Wild Earth explorers who have signed up before the end of January 2021. Terms and conditions apply.
Oh, it's going to be in trouble now. Oh, this is unbelievable stuff. Here comes a hippo in too. Go, Impala. There's a hippo coming in. I can't believe what we're seeing here. This is what we'd normally see in East Africa. It's all over. Hippo leaping at the crocodile now. Everything's gone underwater.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
Welcome back to and beyond Phinda, where we're still sitting with these cheetahs. They're starting to look a lot more full at the moment. If you look at that one on the right hand side, it's looking very, very full, very satisfied, and even panting now just from how full he is. As he gets up like that, now you can see that belly. But it's quite amazing. They've worked all the way from the back towards the front of the carcass now. It doesn't look like that belly can fit too much more, but he's definitely going to try. There we go. Aiming for a bit of the leg. You can see now with that skin that one that's closest to us is chewing on, it's quite thick and quite tough to get through. So if you just watch him, he's trying to cut through that flesh again, just to get to a little bit of the remaining meat. See there, he's trying to rip and cut with those side teeth. Well, that's actually a very good question, and it does seem like it. It seems like when we see them moving off and starting to hunt, there's one that's initiated, there's one that goes off. It's hard to tell at the moment if it's the same one every time, but I would suspect so. In my experience, often one would take charge. That might change over time. It might become another. There might be another leader that takes over, but for the time being, I would say that there is one of them, and it is most likely a male, which, yeah, one of the males would be a little bit bigger than the females, and just as a result of this, he would probably be the leader. Very hard to tell now which male, especially just watching them as they sit here and feed, but I'm sure if they do decide to head off after finishing this carcass, it would be that leader, that dominant one, that would lead the way off and kind of take them towards that area that they're going to rest. And with animals that do have a leader, like male coalitions, it's often not the biggest. Well, it is often the biggest, but it's often the one that's got the most attitude. And yeah, so it doesn't really always mean if the biggest one is the dominant one, but obviously the attitude makes a big difference in that. That one's standing up now. Yeah, they are tearing it down. They're trying to rip through that little bit of skin that's left and trying to get to just those nice tender bits on the hindquarters. We can't really see what's going on at the front, but I wouldn't suspect there to be too much meat left there. It's also quite amazing to see, if you watch how they're feeding, the carcass is very, very clean. They nibble off each little bit. So you see with that one that's closest to us now, just taking off the fine little bits of meat that's left there. And when they leave this carcass, there won't be a lot of meat left, and the carcass all the bones will almost be intact. Whereas if you're watching lions eat or feed, often it's ripped in parts, and you know how they will take one piece for themselves and be a little bit selfish with the way they eat. As it's cooling down now as well and getting a little bit darker, they might become a little bit more concerned about the light that's lowering. So you might notice that they start looking around even more than they're doing now, like that one's just got up. They know that some of the bigger predators start moving around, especially at a time like this, as it's cooling down even more and getting slightly darker. It's quite interesting, I'm sure, as they get a little bit more experienced in the future when they're hunting, they probably won't leave the carcass out in the open like this. We've seen in the past where vultures can even scare cheetah off their kill. So what they might do, especially once they go on their own, or the males go off as three, they might, once they've caught something, drag it under a thicket, so that the scent is also a bit masked, and then the vultures won't be able to see it as clearly. They're quite lucky that no vultures have seen them just yet, and that they're 5, so they could probably scare off a flock of vultures. But you can imagine it is quite tough for them without having a mentor for very long, for only having a mother for 6 months of their life. They've gained a lot from her, but they haven't gained the vitals. When the mother was killed, they were just at the stage where they were just starting to hunt with her. So luckily they got that part, but they didn't learn all the other helpful notes. They had to learn that for themselves. Thanks for your question, Busi. So it often depends on the area that they are in and the habitat that's in the reserve that they're based in. So on Pinda, we don't have as many open plains as you would see maybe in the Masai Mara or the Serengeti. So often our cheetah, the cheetah on Pinda they'd stalk and use a lot of cover, quite similar to a lioness or leopards. And then they'd use that pace, because you can see they're built for pace. So they'll use that bit of speed for the last maybe 20 to 30 meters. But I know that in the Serengeti, they'll often use those wide open spaces, get a bit of elevation to spot their prey, and then use that long grass and their camouflage to get as close as they can, and then use that incredible speed that they've got to hunt down their prey. We have seen recently with these 5, they're quite good at chasing. We haven't seen any successful besides today yet, but they all work together, which is quite amazing and quite cool to see. Often male coalitions, that's why they can catch bigger prey, because they work together, and kind of when one gets tired, the other one will take over. The one at the back got a bit of a fright from something. You can see they've completely ignored those intestines. They probably ate the heart and the liver, where there's a lot of protein, but those intestines in the stomach, they've left that. And I'm sure later on, when they do move off, little large spotted genets or hyenas, if they're in the area, would come and feed on these little bits that are left. So we're going to sit here for a little while, and we're going to send you off to Andrew, who's got an elephant at a waterhole.
Right, so from the cheetah, hoping for them to feed, now with a herd of elephants running around in the dam here, chasing after Egyptian geese. This is what is happening right now. all just going to concern, the rest of the herd is going to be concerned now. Except that they're running away from this area. These are the young bull doing this kind of a noise. But the rest of the herd now moving away, trying to get away. So that was a kind of a very much a trumpeting sound these young male were doing. It's probably because maybe they sometimes presence of hippos in this dam over here. See, coming out clean, not clean but dark, clean. Now different to the rest of them where they haven't been to the water, almost all of them, except for these three. It's amazing. These are the three teenager males. And they're still probably still allowed to be in a group. The sunshine, indeed, the sound, the trumpet sound, it's such an amazing. So that was a truly trumpeting for the elephant. And that sound can be heard far away. So now they're heading west. Actually, the western end of this open area. Which either happens maybe they will disappear into the wood, but we still got a visual. I don't want to lose them, please. Please just stick around. Elephants love water. So that even it's cool already, but they love water. They love playing with the water so much than other animals. So that's why when it's a small puddle of water, then it's easy to be disturbed. All water and mud. So what they have to do first, they get in, they have to drink, and once they start to actually swim and turn water to mud, it's not actually drinkable anymore, and they need to look for another fresh water. Or sometimes if it's no many of these, so sometimes if there is no many of this puddle of water, then there's a problem. More luck here, because this is actually a big lake over here. So fresh, water is fresh, and there's a plenty of water. So that kind of behavior we've seen back there, that's what they usually do. They do that in a herd. Whenever it's around near the water, they mark charge, They would mark charge on impalas, on any other antelope, those young ones. See, they're still having fun there. But practicing pushing one another up. We found out maybe many of them will go in there, join the three, if they feel like it. showing very much. And they can play mounting in the water, these teenagers, so they have quite a lot of energy when they're in there. Look at that one. When I first time make that sound, so it freaks the rest of the female that they were far in the end. And then since they have a very young one, they weren't sure what's happening, what's attacking them back there, because there was kind of a trumpet. But it's all about playing. Nick, you're asking if elephant can swim. Yes, elephant can swim. And they're very good in that. Can go to very much deep water and cross the lake. They have advantage also with this long trunk, and they can take a breath while the whole boat is down. So one marking charging the sister. So it looks like all the young male in the water, the rest of the female, the young one, they're outside. Looks like sister's not welcomed here. She's gonna move off. Like, no, this is all males party in the water right now. For sure, elephants, they don't have to be cleaned. After this, they would be very dirty again. And they would probably spread out with mud. But also reason for that, they have a lot of, their skin is so much of folder, like a rankle. So it's there in these rankles, a lot of parasite would lie the eggs if they don't plaster them with mud and things like that. They're gonna just march straight towards us, but we're all fine. They're practicing their own energy. This is so cool. Looks like the whole members now, they're gonna run. Maybe we're surrounded between the water and the elephants. Especially those that hasn't actually been in the water. Now they started to make their way back to the east again, where they came from. This is actually best a sighting of elephants. I've seen elephants playful so much in the herd, but this is also one of the best. Especially with the males like this, showing a lot of energy of themselves. This is where finally one dominant one amongst the three will come out. Then it's always about who's then will be the oldest one amongst them all. cannot actually forget about these places because it's quite nice and open. And the grass is all mixed. Grass, buffalo grass is most, and so many of the herbs that they will go for. So I'm gonna turn around, stick with them.
Awesome, welcome back. A few of these animals have now taken a bit of a rest here. They got such full bellies that they can't fit any more in. Even the two of them that are still feeding, you can see on the right hand side, it's got such a full belly. I'm sure there's only a few mouthfuls left. They've done really, really well here. If you look at the one on the left-hand side, you can see that he's trying to get into a little bit of the neck that's left, but almost the rest of the Impala's done. And I'm sure they'll try and start finishing the rest of it as soon as they can, before moving up to dark. We've heard some guinea fowl in the background earlier, and Owen just noticed now that the one that's feeding on the right-hand side may have just punctured the intestine a little bit, just with a bit of lack of experience. So maybe that smell might get out a little bit. We're starting to get a bit of the smell now as well. So I was mentioning those guinea fowls. So if a leopard or a lion had to come across the guinea fowl's path, they'd start alarm calling. But yeah, it just sounded like more of just a chatter, not really an alarm call. See the other two now just facing the other direction, just trying to keep an eye out. It is a really dense area, and not the usual area that you'd really find cheetah, just because they won't be able to see too well here, and also the hearing would be a little bit muffled by all the trees that are around. You can see now that horn of the impala now, really big horn, so it just tells us it is an impressive ram. So these guys did really well, like I was saying earlier, to catch such a big impala. Look at that one now on the left hand side, really getting underneath that rib cage. Not sure if you could hear that crunching in the background. One of them might have just chewed on a bit of bone or some cartilage. Yeah, and the one on the right hand side really struggling to get to that meat. From our angle it looks like there's quite a bit there, but maybe from where she is, it's a bit of a tougher angle, and she's really struggling just to get through that skin. One of them did a yawn recently, and you could see their teeth are still very small. So they might just be struggling. At this stage, if their mum was still around, she would have done most of that opening up for them. Opening up where there is meat. And so their teeth are still just trying to get used to that job. The one on the left hand side now just getting a little bit of that cartilage and maybe a bit of marrow out of that sternum. Shaz, definitely. Even though it is 5 of them, these cheetahs are still young and quite small. So if a hyena came across them now, it would definitely be able to chase them away without much of a fight. I think they'd get quite a fright and probably run off. Those two in the background now seem to be dozing off slightly, not really on the lookout like they're meant to be, but now you can see they heard something in the background and just changed their direction a little bit. 4th one getting up now just to try and see if he can fit a little bit more in. Really, really special to be able to see 5 cheetahs together. It's definitely a first for me, and this week has been very special. The one on the left just sniffing around, seeing if he can find a little bit of meat left between those ribs. There we go. Spotted a little bit of meat on the back leg there. Looks a little bit like how I did on Christmas lunch. Trying to fit as much as we can in. You can imagine they don't really know when they're gonna get their next meal, so they're gonna try and fit in as much as they can, and try not leave anything at all. You can imagine for three fully grown cheetah, this would probably be enough for them. But yeah, five young cheetah, it seems like it might even be a little bit too much. But I'm sure they'll try and stomach as much as they can now. So we're going to sit here for a while and see how they carry on eating and potentially move off in the next few minutes. But we're going to send you off to Mark, who's got an elephant.
Well, hello everyone. I must say, you are joining us with a rather shy elephant who's decided to hide behind the one and only tree that's in front of it. But I'm sure it's just feeding on a nice tasty piece of grass. Sorry we're late everyone. There has been a rather phenomenal cloud, windy, weird storm thing that just happened. And now we seem to have passed over, and so we can come to you again. My name is Mike Anderson, behind the camera is Gert, and you're joining us at Eco Training's Pride Lands Conservancy, where we've been on an adventure this afternoon, but unfortunately our adventure has been curtailed by the really strange weather we're having. As you can see, I'm wearing a fleece. It's incredibly cold. In fact, it's the coldest I've felt in a very long time. But the animals don't seem to be worried. At least these elephants aren't. There's one feeding out in the open on some of the grass sheltered underneath that fallen knob thorn or whatever it was. Actually just saw a herd of elephants come down to Ndlovu Dam and actually swim, even in this icy cold wind. The water is probably warmer than the wind itself, so I'm sure they find it quite soothing to be in the water. And here comes this elephant bull now, a bit closer. Look how it's feeding with its trunk, just sniffing all the different grasses, getting to know which ones it likes and which ones it doesn't. Most of the grass that has those very light coloured seeds and inflorescences, that's the flowery bit at the top, are not very palatable. Those grasses are not the ones it's trying to get to. It's trying to pick at some of the herbaceous plants just underneath there, and also some of the more nutritious grasses. stands to reason that it is being quite selective at the moment, because there's plenty of different types of grasses to select. Corpus, elephants can't jump, not the way we think of jumping. They can lift themselves onto their back legs to reach higher, and they can do a sort of a... Young elephants we often see doing this little bit of a tantrum where they lift their front legs up and stamp them down onto the ground in order to try and chase away birds, warthogs, or wherever it is might be around. But they can't jump like how you'd expect a dog to jump, or an impala, for example, or a lion. They are just far too heavy for that. All their movements are about saving energy. When you've got such a massive body, to be jumping around wouldn't make any sense at all. You're just going to be putting a lot of strain on the joints, as well as using a lot of energy. So no. I mean, I stand to be corrected. I could be completely wrong. But as far as I'm aware, I've never in my life seen an elephant jumping. Gert, have you seen an elephant jump before? No. I'm pretty sure they can't jump. But we see them often raising themselves onto their back legs, practicing in the dams, at Ndlovu Dam, for example. We see the young males often pushing up onto their back legs to mount each other, which is not only a dominance thing, but also a way to practice for the real deal when it comes to mating. We're actually sitting in front of in front of us is that pond which had all the bullfrogs in. I was actually hoping this elephant would come towards this mud wallow to have a bit of a splash, but it seems content to feed in the distance. So in the meantime, we'll send you over to Lauren.
My first one of the season, we have a long-tailed paradise wider. I think it's a long-tail. The long-tailed and the broad-tailed look remarkably similar, but of course the long-tailed has a longer tail, believe it or not. Now this is a male, very elaborate, very fancy, striking, unique when in flight. I think he's catching ants. Just watching his behavior, I have a funny feeling he's picking up ants off the ground. They do also eat seeds, but in summer, normally when they're breeding, they choose to sort of adapt their diet to more insects. Now I'm hoping he'll just fly up a little bit and you'll see how unique they really are. You see? Now that tail feather could technically be a hindrance. So long and so elaborate, you would think that it would be a hindrance to a bird in flight. And this, of course, is what they call... Oh, sorry, my nose is running. I do apologize. There we go. I think this cold weather's starting to get to me. But yes, this is what they call the handicapped hypothesis, and what it means, just like a lion's mane. Essentially, a lion, a male lion in his prime will have a huge, thick, long, dark mane. And if you think about having that extra hair in the heat that we have out here in the Lowveld, for example, or anywhere across Africa, you would think that that would be a hindrance. It's very similar to that. It's purely for breeding. It's to attract the ladies, to sort of say, hey, look at me. Just like an Inyala male. I've got a long, shaggy coat, but I'm surviving out here. I'm still impressive. I've got the best genes. Look at me. It's also trying to attract the females. Look how handsome I am. I've got this beautiful, long tail. It's so nice. My first one that I've managed to get on camera in a very, very long time. Since last year, I think. And the non-breeding male looks completely different. Does not have that long, elaborate tail and has a completely different coloration. Ian, I have no idea. High in the sky, one would assume. I do not know how high they can fly, I'm afraid. Sorry, Ian. But with this tail, probably not very far. I would imagine they would not go anywhere higher than the tops of the trees when they've got a tail like this. I think this really would weigh them down. Look at it. So long, so fancy. But when they've got their non-breeding plumage, I would imagine they would be a little bit more agile in the skies. Their tail is short and far more rigid. And the sort of handicap principle, if you like, it was actually proposed by a man called Zahavi. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And it's basically just a proposal that females prefer males with handicaps because it shows that they're stronger and fitter and have the best sort of fitness prospects for their offspring. And it's part of sexual selection. It's an element of sexual selection, the handicap principle. It's a good indicator of the viability of the male that you're about to mate with. And that's exactly what's happening here with this long tail. It's a cost to the male. It's definitely a cost. I would imagine, I can't say this conclusively, but this bird will not be able to fly so high as Ian asked because of the tail. So it's a cost, it's a hindrance. But it increases their fitness benefit by giving them better access to females and more females. Also a peacock's tail. Think of a peacock's tail. Even more elaborate than what we're looking at right now. Even more fancy. And yet it's for the females. I'm very glad we managed to get this on camera. Sadly, we lost our young skittish male, but we did find his kill. He's got an impala stashed on the ground. So as I bumble through the rest of Buffelshoek, we're going to send you across to the hungry cheetahs.
Welcome back. We're still here with these 5 cheetah, which looks like 4 at the moment. Something just spooked them a couple of minutes ago, and they all got up and ran off. Not too sure what it was, but yeah, the one's still out of frame at the moment. We can't really see him. We think maybe he's around the corner. But 2 of them are still managing to fit a little bit of meat in their bellies. If you look at the one on the right now, or the one closest to us, drinking a little bit of blood at the bottom of the skin there. You see how he was lapping it up. But now, he seems to be going back towards the bone every time. Maybe there's a little bit of nice cartilage there. Stomach. Just because they're so full. A beautiful gaze from the one just sitting up now looking right at us. Or she was. It's lovely just to sit here and watch her for a little while, just spending a bit of time here watching how they behave. And we're going to send you off to Nikki while we just sit here for a little while longer.
So warm welcome to all our viewers to And Beyond Ngala. Now today we had quite a bit of rain, and so only later on we were able to head off on drive, and we got such a surprise with a leopard up in the tree. Now you can see the way that this leopard has tucked his head behind that branch. Now she's probably just trying to make herself as comfortable as possible, because you can see the wind is blowing quite a bit, and it is a nice and cool day here at And Beyond Ngala. There's also a carcass up in the tree, so she might have made the kill, dragged it up in the tree, and now she's just guarding that kill from possibly other leopards that can go for it. But have a look there, you'll see the impala just pulled over that one branch. I think that might even be the front legs and the head dangling down. It's hard to see with this light. There you can see the ears of that impala. So I'm Nikki here at Ambion Ngala. So I'm going to be a ranger for this afternoon, and with me on the camera we have BK. And as we mentioned, it's just we had a bit of rain today, so the weather wasn't the best for viewing animals. However, one of the trackers were on foot and they were tracking this leopard, and of course, after spending quite some time, he spotted this female up in the tree with the carcass. And for some of our viewers that have seen quite a few of the leopards around Ngala, we think that this one might be a female known as the Nyala female, because she was born in a Nyala tree, or not born in the Nyala tree, but seen in a Nyala tree when she was very young. So ideally we would like to see when she lifts her face. We haven't been able to really see her clearly because of the light. I can definitely hear some Impala's alarm calling, and if this is the female that we are thinking of, maybe there's a chance that there could be that youngster that's on her way here, and that's why we're hearing those Impala's alarm calling. Alan, that's a very good question. Leopards do. I have seen before where if there's Impala that move under the tree, that the leopard will pounce from that height, which is probably 4 or 5 meters into the tree. They'll pounce onto an Impala. It's remarkable to see how high these leopards are capable of jumping, and still when they land on the ground that they can walk away unhurt. Here we go, she's lifting her head now so we can possibly see a bit more of the face. Now she is staring in the direction where we heard the alarm calls from. So let's just spend some more time here and see if we can get a better glimpse of her. But in the meantime, let's head across to Mike with some elephants.
Our very curious elephant just came right up to us to just have a look what we were doing, and then decided to continue feeding right into the sunset past our vehicle. So when elephants do that, and you stop somewhere and you allow them to come right up to the vehicle, or they allow you to be there and they walk up to you, it's such an amazing experience, because you know that they've chosen that, and he absolutely is so relaxed, feeding the whole time, just coming, feeding past us, checking what we're up to. It's really a calming, humbling experience. You can see just how much it's actually eating. Literally every 4 or 5 seconds, another whole mouthful of grass. And you just got to think, each one of those clumps of grass would absolutely fill you up if you had to eat it. It would be so much. And yet this elephant just keeps going. Remember, they only really digest about 40% of what they eat. The rest of it is excreted out of their body undigested, and that's why so many animals actually dig in their dung to get to that undigested material, whether it's seeds or fruits or nuts. Even the grasses, for example, dung beetles roll up the dung and take it away so that their offspring can feed on that decomposing plant matter. And you can imagine what one elephant is feeding on. Imagine a herd of 20 or 30 moving through this area. It's why this area is so open like this. Sugar bits, that is difficult to exactly determine, but from what I've read, it's somewhere between, around about 50,000 individual muscles in an elephant's trunk, somewhere around there, which is a lot. I don't think we have more than a few hundred in our bodies. So an elephant's trunk, that's why when you watch it, it has, we were just discussing it, Gert and I, about how it has this concertina kind of motion where it can stretch and then it can shorten, and the skin on its trunk actually folds up, and then it can twist and turn and curl. It can be really strong and grip a whole tree and pull it down, or it can be so delicate to just pick up the smallest leaf and pluck, a piece of grass from in between all this other vegetation. So the trunk is really one of the most unique and wonderful adaptation that any animal in the whole world has, in my opinion. And I mean, just look at it. That is the nose of the animal. That is a nose that can do everything our arms can do, has more muscles than our entire body, more than 10 times more muscles probably than our entire body. It can smell, it can drink, it can suck water up into that trunk and spread in its mouth. It can taste the urine of a female and know if she's an estrus. It's incredible. It's the most amazing appendage. And I mean, elephants are also right or left-handed, so to speak, right or left-trunked, tusked, or whatever you want to call it, but you'll find that they always curl their trunk one way or the other, depending on if they're right or left-trunked, I suppose. So from this angle, if the light wasn't so bad from behind it, you might be able to see where it's very green on one side, and that's the side that it often uses to curl around the grasses. Same for the tusks. It'll often use one tusk more often than the other. So for this particular elephant, it looks like its left tusk is blunter than its right. So perhaps it uses its left side more. It's difficult to tell from this angle though. If it is the same elephant that was here yesterday, it seems to really favor this feeding ground, at least over the last couple of days. It hasn't moved far at all. Remember, Ndlovu Dam is not far from here, maybe 300 meters in a straight line. So it goes from here, the feeding area, to Ndlovu Dam, probably sleeps in these drainage lines that's just to our right, or sort of to the right of where the elephant is now, in the soft sand if it needs to. Remember, elephants can also sleep standing, so it can really do it anywhere. Nice to see the sun finally coming out. I think from tomorrow we should get sun again. It's been a couple of cloudy, very windy days. I think from tomorrow it should warm up and be sunnier again, which will definitely change the behavior of the animals. We've seen comparatively few coming to the Waterhole. So now that the temperature will rise, we might see a lot more animals, including buffaloes, which we haven't seen for a while, coming back to Pride Lands and going to swim and drink in the waterholes. And the sun's golden rays reflecting off the grass. It is quite a wonderful scene. I'm really enjoying this. Finally the sun's out, watching this elephant disappear into the sunset.
I'm very glad that the sun is out there with Mark. These cheetahs have all, except one, finished eating. Quite interestingly, they're all facing different directions. So if you look at the back one, it's looking away from us. Second from the back is looking to the left, one looking towards us, and I'm sure that one on the right at the back is looking a different direction as well. Very smartly, just to keep an eye on all 360 degrees. This last one feeding is managing to squeeze in a little bit more food. There's not a whole lot left on this Impala, but this female's trying to get as much as she can, and I'm sure as soon as she's done, if the other four are ready to move on, they'll move off with her. But they'll just be sitting here waiting for her to finish, and just keeping an eye out for any other predators that might be coming this way, It is cooling down quite nicely now, getting a little bit darker, and this is usually the time where cheetahs start to look for a place to spend the night. And usually that is in quite an open area, not such a dense area like this. See that one at the back has just heard something, turn his head, but you're not giving it too much attention. Maybe you're going to come and have something more to eat. Slowly rejoining.
Just look at how well this leopard blends into its environment. Oh, she's actually picked up a head. So let's try and see if we can focus a bit closer. Now notice all the bits of white, like around her face and like under her chin. So this is most likely that Nyala female that we were talking about earlier. And also look at those very prominent long whiskers. Very distinguishing feature of a leopard. But I can just imagine for her having a carcass around, if she would lie down on the ground, because if she's on the ground, she might not, there's not a lot of wind and she'll have more cover, but maybe because of the fact that there is a carcass, there might be a few hyenas that will eventually come through to investigate. And that means she could be quite vulnerable, especially if there's something bigger, like a bigger predator, like a lion. Look at her paws that are dangling down. You might even see the tail just left of that. And you'll see how the wind's actually blowing the tail as well. Look at that. It's incredible how the spots come down the tail and then like maybe 2 inches from the end and underneath it's just completely white in color. And often if a mother leopard walks in the tall grass, you'll see them curl up that white, and just so that the cubs can follow them through the tall grass. Sometimes even when leopards hunt and they crouch down, you'll see the flick of the tail, so their tail flicking, especially that white part, exposing the white part, flicking side to side. But she is very, very comfortable. Just look at how she's maneuvered herself around that branch. Phil, you find sometimes that a leopard can, like let's say with this mother, she would allow her daughter to feed off the carcass. However, if there was another female in the area that's not her offspring, the chances are these two would fight. And I have seen this one in particular with her mother in the same tree, and she was at the age already where she's left the mom, where they were fighting over a carcass. But of course, if a bigger male leopard comes through, they'll probably push her off from this carcass and then feed off the carcass themselves. But she won't necessarily let a strange or a new leopard in the area feed off that carcass. Because with leopards, they are territorial, so she'll have an area. And often the male's territory extends beyond hers, and as well as a few other females, because a male will encircle. Well, let's say within a male's territory there might be 2-3 females, but the females they don't cross over their territories. The mother sometimes, if she has youngsters and the youngsters are females, she might sometimes give up her territory for them to take it over, or she might even share her territory with her daughter, and then they'll start moving. She'll start moving into the one section of her territory, and the daughter might take over another. For now, I'm going to spend a little bit more time here with BK and see if there's if she moves maybe towards the carcass. But in the meantime, let's head across to Mike with some buffalo.
So we were just talking about the buffaloes might come back, and as we turned a corner, here we came across a small group of buffaloes. Now, what's interesting is that there are only 5 buffaloes here, I think, which is quite strange because normally we're seeing them in groups of 50 to 100 moving around, I think about 3 different herds. So this tells me that maybe with all this windy weather, they got separated somehow. And look how they're huddled up close together like this, just watching us for the most part. This is when buffaloes are at their most vulnerable. Their strength really comes not only from individually being very strong, but also the fact that they move around in herds that are well known to defend each other if there's an attack. Now with so few buffaloes here, and in fact I'm not even sure if there's a bull, there might be one at the back there. We don't have a good view. But without a big bull buffalo to lead a defense, let's say, you might find that lions could easily pick one of these buffaloes off. So that's why they're acting quite strange and nervous and quiet and looking around a lot, because they're probably missing the rest of the herd. I'm sure over the next few days, as it calms down and the wind starts to settle and it gets warmer, they'll move around a bit more and eventually find each other again, but it may take a little bit of time. So right now they're staying close to that clearing where that elephant was. So what they'll do is they'll just cross we just crossed the drainage line. These buffaloes might just cross back that way and stay on the edge of the clearing, so that at least they can spot danger coming. Those oxpeckers actually will also help them. The oxpeckers will definitely jump up like that if they also sense danger. Right now, I think the oxpeckers are just flying up because they're heading to their nests and roosting sites. They've been staying with the buffaloes as much as they can throughout the day, not only for food, but also because they can stay warm by staying on the body. Jumping Castle, I'm not sure that It's nice to see you again, by the way. Thanks for all the questions that you send in. I'm not sure that I understood the question though. Are you asking how long it will take the buffaloes to find each other again, or how long have they been separated? If I can just get that question again. How will they find each other again? Okay, well, so buffaloes have an incredible sense of smell. That's really their primary sense that they use to not only locate danger, but also to know where food and water is. And so I suspect that these buffaloes, once the wind dies down a bit, will start to move around and try and get the scent of the rest of the herd. Remember, they're much more sensitive than us. So when a buffalo walks through an area or defecates or urinates, there's a good chance that that smell for them will last many days. And so they'll slowly, it might take many days for them to find each other again, but slowly but surely they'll find each other. Now their eyesight is the last thing they use to find each other. What they'll use next, after they've used their smell to sort of narrow down an area, then they'll start to use their hearing. Now buffalo herds make a lot of noise, lots of bellowing, lots of grunting, and they'll eventually then pinpoint the location, and then it'll be all together again. Might not be a quick process, might take a few days, but I've no doubt that they will find each other again. It is getting chilly again as the sun sets. I'm sure these buffaloes are going to not move too much tonight, probably just huddle down there, probably all facing in different directions so that the predators will not have an easy way in. And I mean, I was saying that they're an easy target, but I mean, that's a relative term. Buffaloes are still incredibly formidable. Even though there's only 4 of them, there's still no easy way to bring one down. Well, it sounds like the leopard that Nikki had has come into a better view.
We just tried to see if we can maneuver the vehicle to have another look at this leopard. And how incredible is this? Look at how she's basically folded her 2 front legs over that branch, and how she's resting with her chin on that one like bend in the branch. She looks so comfortable. Even look at her back legs like tucked in under her body just to help her support, and of course the tail dangling down on the other side. She's so beautiful. Look at the size of her paws. Now, what's quite interesting about leopard, in comparison to the cheetah that Pete saw earlier on at Pinder, is that the cheetah do not have retractable claws because they use those claws in order to run. It helps them for traction. But with leopard, they need to tuck those claws away and only have them ready whenever they pounce onto an animal. Because you can imagine if this female's claws were out and she's moving over very hard terrain, it will wear down. So whenever she tries to grab something, it might just slip out of her grip. But now, powerful, sharp claws that are tucked in. You just see right in the middle of her toes, there's those little fine black markings. So that's where the toes are tucked, or the claws are tucked in. I'm trying to see on the back leg if you can actually see one that's out, but you can't really see it now. But look at the pattern on her belly as well. I love the pattern of a leopard. In comparison to cheetah, so cheetah have spots, but a leopard looks like a couple of spots that are fused together to form what is known as a rosette. And also she's panting quite heavily, so she's had a decent amount of an impala to eat. And now all that meat on her stomach, like pushing against that branch, so it's making her short of breath. Just look at how she's maneuvered her head now. She might just stretch out a bit and then put her head down this way. I'm not too sure, like, from where the spot would originate. If you had to take this leopard, it would probably be, it won't be the actual, like, if you had to, let's say, shave it, you won't see those spots on the actual skin. So it would be probably more on the fur than anything else. See how she's just stretching. Imagine if she turns around and she starts heading back towards the carcass. It's always amazing how a leopard can maneuver over such a thin branch and keep that balance. See how she's just looking around at the moment. Nice little stretch, just stretching those muscles, going down to the branch below. Now, if she's going down to that branch, if she goes left, it's towards the carcass, but if she goes down, she might just head down towards the ground. But we'll have to spend some time here and just see. Looks like she might come down to the ground side. How is that for the ideal leopard photo? She's just come down in a nice open area where there's not a lot of leaves around her, and she's just like planked herself down on that branch. But you can see she's constantly looking around, and I wonder if the youngster is nearby, or did she make the kill maybe early this morning, drag it up to the tree, fed off as much as she possibly can, because that youngster is almost the size of her. And eventually what she'll do from here is go fetch the youngster and bring her back to where this carcass might be. Julia, I agree with you. I also enjoy how they relax in the tree. Like, especially look at how she's now maneuvered her one back foot over the branch, and also her tail. It's just incredible. They can make the most uncomfortable branch look comfortable. So what we're going to try and do is maybe see if we can go into infrared, because it is quite dark now, especially with the angle of the light and with this leopard. We're just going to see if we're going to get a better view. If not, we'll go back to the normal screen. So bear with us in 1, 2, 3. There we go. Might just see her slightly better, especially if she turns. It's just because it's overcast weather at the moment. There's not a lot of light, and where she's lying down, it's also not an easy spot for the camera. Take a right front foot over that branch just to keep her balance. But you can see the claws aren't even out, so it's not like she's actually having to pull in order to lie down. She's basically balanced herself, and that's just additional grip. But in the meantime, we'll enjoy the sighting. Let's head across to Lauren with a very interesting bird.
We have 2 southern brown hornbills in the tree, but one of them is just out of reach for us because we've got our roof on. I'm not sure if they're the same pair that Andrew had earlier, but they're obviously unimpressed with the weather, as am I. It's getting very, very cold now. So you can see they're all huddled together. They've shortened their neck, hunched their shoulders, if you like, for warmth. Now we're getting a really good view of their tail feathers there. And I did say I would come back to touch on tails. So there's sort of 2 types of tails. And some can be prehensile and the other non-prehensile. And prehensile basically means to grasp, just like an elephant's trunk. The African elephant has 2 prehensile tips it can grasp with the tip of its trunk. An Asian elephant only has 1. So there's a sort of 2 types of tails you get. But when it comes to birds, the tail feathers are slightly different from all the other feathers in the bird, and they are much more rigid, much more structured, and they're quite hard. If you try to break a tail feather from a bird, it's very, very difficult. And this is because they act like support. Not only do they help steer in the air, they also act as a sort of third leg almost for those birds that cling onto branches, especially your woodpeckers. Your woodpeckers who are clinging vertically can actually use their structured tail feathers as a third leg for balance. And there's a fantastic paper about why animals don't have third legs. You should search it, it's very entertaining. But in birds, they can use them for steering in the air or for support when they're resting. And normally tail feathers contain a lot more melanin than do the other feathers. And this is to help reinforce it, to give it more structural integrity. Now, non-prehensile tips, like for example, in monkeys or other primates, they sort of act as not only to help it balance when it swings through the trees, but help to wrap around branches and assist when they're hanging and going from tree to tree. But if you have a prehensile tail, that's going to help you grasp objects and almost act like an extra arm. So there's a whole variety of tails throughout the animal kingdom. And those sort of organisms that have prehensile tails would be opossums, some lizards, and it really helps them climb and safely walk across tree branches because they're able to grip and grasp. If you think of rattlesnakes, they've actually evolved a special organ at the end of their tail that rattles. And this sort of enables them to warn intruders, keep away, keep away. Rattle, 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 I am not happy with your presence. And the rattle is actually just made from keratin, believe it or not. The same as our fingernails, our hooves, horns, our hair, That's all the rattle inside the tail is actually made for. But it's a highly specialised tail. A sort of adaptation to work with the rattlesnake's lifestyle. Okay, our hornbills were not interested in the tail discussion. They have flown off. Now I'm trying to make my way to the hyena den, but we're racing against the lack of light. We can't view them if we don't have IR, I'm afraid, but I'm going to do my very best to get to the den and see who's present. Welcome to my car. This is Wendy, and she's my favorite. She would love to have your name engraved on her so you can be with her every single time she goes on a safari here in Juma. If you become a Wild Earth Explorer, you will have the opportunity to buy an engraved tag which we will attach to her. We will make sure to send you a digital picture to show you exactly where you are sitting on her. You will have front row seat in every single sighting.
My name is James Hendry, and I work here at Juma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands on the western fringes of the Greater Kruger National Park. My favorite part of getting questions from viewers is that we get to have long and varied discussions about all sorts of different aspects of nature. Because our audience comes from all over the world, it's very special to have different perspectives from everywhere. If you want to submit a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to the Live Safari page and submit your question beneath the live feed.
Hello everyone, my name is Trishala and I am a naturalist and safari guide here in Juma Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands in South Africa. I think that the information that we provide, and most importantly the questions that you ask, give both you and I a really good idea of what's going on. My friend Fernando here, he's a flat-necked chameleon and I love them. They're just these gems that you manage to find in the bush.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth. Have you been watching Wild Earth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. Wild Earth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live Wild Earth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
Thank you very much. Look at now what we see here. Just a little bit of a sunset or the cloud that is already, the sun has already gone down. This is actually western sector of where we're looking at right now. And it's only beautiful of, showing us a bit of clearing out yet, but it's going to be covered soon again because still heavy clouds coming from now the south, where it's only that section on the west where it looks like it's a bit of a less of a heavy cloud. And there, it's not actually raining right now. But maybe tomorrow is going to be cool, where there's still colder take places. I always say that temperatures when it's dropped, as long as there's no wind, animals will be out about. But when it's wind, they always hide in this very drainage line system where if you ever miss them, then of course you all thought there's no game around, but they all just gonna freeze, politely feed in this very dense area because it's covered there. The wind penetrates very slowly or less. So I believe you might still receive a shower during the night. Alex, indeed it is a peaceful scenery back there, and that's why I stop here, because You know, last night we didn't actually have a beautiful end of these showing any sign of a sunset. So, and today it's kind of very nice just to see what the west and where the sunset look like. Maybe tomorrow we're gonna have this opportunity again if it's ever gonna be overcast and things like this with cloud and rain. The rain is not too bad though, because this is so I'm gonna search around here, see if I find anything. I'm gonna be sending you over to Pete with his giraffe, Tower of Giraffe.
Welcome back to And Beyond Pinda. We've just come across this beautiful group of giraffe here. If you look to our right, actually, these two males are busy play fighting here. One got horns right between the legs there. The reason why we think it's just play fighting is because they're still quite young. And if you look at their horns, they're still quite small, still quite light in color. Look at the one there aiming right for the chest. Yeah, if they were being quite serious, they'd line up right next to each other and swing their necks or their heads rather, with quite a lot more speed. You see that one completely missing there. But if you see the one just to the left of them as well, he's looking towards this other group of males. It's quite interesting to see so many male giraffe together. So when they're fighting like this, they'll be aiming for the vitals, so for each other's rib area, and also for their necks. It can become quite aggressive. You can imagine all that momentum with that long neck and those horns. They're not very sharp, but they can do a lot of damage. Ew. The one that's to the left looks slightly smaller, but he's putting up a good fight. Almost like the third one there's third wheeling a little bit, trying to break them up, saying, what are you guys up to? I'm going to go forward a little bit just to try and re-angle so we can get a different position here. There you go. So Jessica's asked if one of them can die. I've never seen it myself, but I've actually seen a video of one giraffe breaking another one's neck and completely paralyzing it, and then the giraffe actually died as a result. So they can. It is quite rare for that to happen, but it definitely can happen. Look at them now breaking up. The one in the middle has kind of separated them. And now a female is just joining from the right-hand side. Well, not quite joining, but just walking slowly towards them. She's a little bit unsure of this group of young males. Look at her slowly looking and trying to decide whether it's worth going up to them or not, especially when they're messing around a little bit. She doesn't want to get caught in the action, so she decides not to go off, carry on feeding. Now if we scan across towards these two males that are on the road here, There's some more giraffe just on the road. And if you see how they're just staring in one direction like that, and both of them facing the same way, there's even one further away that's also looking that same direction. Often we use this as it's cooling down, especially to find predators. If you know maybe there's a leopard or a lion in the area and the giraffe look like that, often it's worth having a gamble and going to see what they're looking at, especially when their ears are put forward like the one on the left, and then they slowly sometimes move towards it just to get a better look. See, they've stopped feeding, they've stopped even chewing their cud. But if one does look away, then you know, okay, maybe they just spotted something. It is getting dark, so obviously their eyesight will be a little bit, well, not as good as it would be in the middle of the day. Okay, so we're going to go and have a quick look at what they're looking at, and we're going to send you off to Lauren, who's found some hyenas.
We've got June at the entrance now. It's no longer Corky, it's June. And I think it's Intima that's just arrived. I'm glad I came here. The situation's completely different. Can you hear them? She must be suckling. Yes, it's Intima coming to greet June's little one. So maybe that question earlier about them doing a timeshare, maybe they do. It was Corks earlier and now it's June. I'm watching you, Miss Intima. I want to know your secrets. It's very cold. I've lost all feeling on my right hand. So I'm not entirely sure we'll get a view of this cub. It's probably going to stay close to the warmth of Mum. They've got a lucky drive, an unknown leopard. We just spent some time with Corks and now we're spending some time with June. I haven't seen June's little one in quite a while, so this is actually good to know that it's definitely here. It's suckling. And we'll stay here as long as we can. The minute we lose light and the pictures of poor quality, we shall leave. Now, hyenas, if you think of their tail definitely functions as a fly swatter. Has a lot of organisms out here. It's really important to get those nasty flies away. But also they use it in communication. Strong, important communication. They raise their tails. Their tails almost go erect. They go up, they go vertical, they start to curl over their back, and this is a sign of dominance. And it's very, very important in hyena communication. Lots of different animals will use their tails for communication, including leopards, including elephants, even zebras. We maybe don't always understand it, but it's very, very important in the sort of social structure of these organisms. I mean, alligators can store fat in their tails, fat reserves. Foxes use their tails as a blanket. Hippos, well, they use it as a propeller to spread their feces in an act of being territorial. And humans, I guess we don't have tails, but we do have that tail bone. It's called the coccyx. And I'm sure it's right at the bottom of our spine. And if any of you have ever fallen or cracked or broken your coccyx, oh my goodness, it's very, very painful. Come on, June, let us see your little one. I'm guessing it's a girl, but at this stage it's very much speculation. Very much speculation. We've only had a few sort of glimpses, but I do think it's a little girl June has. Okay, we're going to try and stay here as long as we can, but we're going to send you guys across to Nicky with his leopard.
So what I want to do now for all our viewers is I just want you to listen to this late afternoon, early evening calls that are around us. Because this leopard isn't going to be moving anywhere pretty soon. And I mean, we have seen what leopard it is. We've pointed out quite a few features. But for now, let's take just a couple of minutes and we'll be absolutely quiet. And I want you to listen to the wind through the leaves. I want you to listen to the cicadas calling in the back, as well as some of the nightjars and possibly francolins. So let's just listen. Amanda, these sounds are absolutely amazing. Like just sitting still and hearing the wind blowing through the leaves and hearing the cicadas, like how they're calling. Because you'll hear them like that very fine, high-pitched noise that we're hearing now. And often with the males and females, so the males tend to call like this. They have these vibrating membranes on the side of their bodies, and so they vibrate that. And whenever they stop, the females often have only a short time to respond to that, and that's how they eventually find one another. But of course, they're always trying to outcompete each other to see who can be the loudest to attract them, of course, the females. And the sound, the longer you keep quiet, the more ear-deafening it becomes. It's almost like when the silence becomes noisy. You can hear some of the frogs as well. There's babbling casinas, there's banded rubber frogs that I can hear in the distance. She's now just picked up her head to scan, probably just to see if there's anything in the area. Can hear some helmeted Guinea Fowls also calling. In the meantime, let's head across to Lauren with our hyena cub.
Oh, we just had the most wonderful, wonderful sighting of the little cub. Is that you coming back out again? Mom just picked you up and put you in her mouth and put you back in the den again. I have a funny feeling you're not supposed to be out here. I could be wrong. Now I'm aware it's getting very dark. We are leaving shortly. I just wanted to show you the little one. But June grabbed it by the neck and put it back in the den, but it's just not staying put. Oh, hello. We have another head. One of Heart's little ones. It's so nice to see that cub. Makes my heart melt every time. It's still at the age where it only really comes out of June's here. Still very much responds to mother. And see, off it goes, look, on its own little mission. June is too busy in a greeting ceremony. Very sweet. Now you can see the size of Heart's cubs, and they're very much able to sort of perform the greeting ceremony just the way adults do. Okay, they're not as tall and they can't lift their leg as high, but they've learned very, very quickly, and that's how important it is to perform these ceremonies within a clan. Social bonding, understanding, sending chemical signals, reading chemical signals. June, I don't know if you're looking for your cub, but it's not in there. She's behind you. Julia, I agreed. Hyena cubs are just the cutest. They really, really are. Ah, there you go, June. Your cub is there, see? But I do think we'll have to leave now. It's just far too dark, I'm afraid. On a sunny day, we can normally make it go a little bit later. But on a day like we've had today, we've lost a lot of light very quickly. But at least we got to see that cub. Ah, what a drive. So I'm going to say goodbye to the Juma clan, and we're going to send you guys across to Nikki with his leopard.
I'm so glad Lauren was able to see those hyena cubs. But we just try to reposition again, so remaneuver the vehicle so we can have another glimpse of this leopard. And we have put the infrared on, so there's absolutely no light that we are shining towards it. It's actually just this invisible beam from the camera that enables us to view a leopard at night without having to influence their behavior using a spotlight. And you can see she is staring at something at the back. Now earlier on there was some Impala alarm calling. Oh, look at the yawn. And she's staring down in that direction. It might just be she's just scanning the area at the back. It's nice and dense after all the rain we've had. And it doesn't look like she spotted anything. It might just be a couple of yawns and then she'll eventually head back to that carcass. Or imagine even for her coming down onto the ground. The only way we'll find out is just to spend some more time with her and see. Because often cats, when they do yawn, it's a sign maybe there's a good chance of them getting up and start moving. You can see after those yawns, looks like she's slightly more awake. Michael, interesting enough, is the biggest kill that I've heard about. I mean, it might have differed because this was from a few years ago, is where I heard a male leopard was dragging a 90-kilogram giraffe baby into a tree. I mean, that's at least, let's say, with this female here, just judging by her size and her weight, she's probably around 65 kilograms. And that giraffe was around 90. So let's just picture it like this. Add 30 kilograms to this leopard, and then basically just drag it up a tree. I mean, that's a lot of weight. And it just shows you how strong they are, because, I mean, that kill that was dragged into a tree is that male leopard. Let's say it weighed 90 kilograms and dragging 90 kilograms. So altogether, there's 180 kilograms that it's able to move up into the tree. So pound for pound, it's a very strong cat. What I might just do, because of the branches off to the left, I'm just going to slowly push forward. Let's just see if she moves. If she decides to move, we'll try and just maneuver the vehicle slightly forward so we can have a better glimpse of her. Let's try it. So bear with me, that we might have a bit of shake on the camera, but it's just so that we can move maybe a meter forward. So hold on. Here we go. Cats, this particular female has beautiful eyes, but also look at the spot pattern. I think from all the cats, there's very few that gets to the pattern of a leopard. And that's why so many of our viewers and so many of our guests that do come and visit can relate to seeing a leopard in the wild and seeing that actual coat is, can't really compare it against anything. See another yawn. Remember, we said every time there's a yawn, there's a possibility that she might start moving. Another yawn. I'm just hoping that this leopard eventually starts moving towards that carcass. Here we go. How elegant was that? Okay, let me reposition slightly. When I say reposition, it just means I'm going to move the vehicle so that we can hopefully get another view. Now she is moving to a really dense area in the tree. And also, we have other rangers that are with us here, so we just wait for them to move, and as soon as they stop, we'll try and move. We don't want to have too many vehicles moving at a time. You'll see I have a little blanket on me because it is nice and cool, and I'm just making myself really comfortable like that leopard was earlier on the branch. So I'm just waiting, as I said, for this vehicle to stop behind us, and then hopefully we'll be able to position the vehicle. But what an amazing, amazing evening with this leopard. Let's just see. As I said, it might not even be a view, but we can just try another. We can try and move around and see if we can get another glimpse.
We left the den. It was getting far too dark, I'm afraid. But at least we got to see them. That's the rain started again. Not very pleasant. However, Wendy is returning to camp. We do have a policy here about lights and IR, which is really, really fantastic all round. And you don't want to disturb either diurnal or nocturnal animals with spotlights or bright car lights. We've only got our dims on here, and that's to make sure we don't drive over anything on the road. Insects, small rodents, terrapins, tortoises, anything that may have positioned themselves on the road. But otherwise, I don't even put my bright side lights on. There was a really interesting study that Tristan once told me about, and it was to do with white light, bright white light, and impala eyes. And although many people think that the prey species don't have as good eyesight as the predators, they do. Impalas have incredible eyesight, and they do have night vision, but very large eyes in comparison for the size of their skull. And larger eyes take in more light, and it just takes a few seconds of that bright white light on their eyes, and they're almost startled and blinded, if you like, temporarily blinded, for up to 20 minutes. So you have to be very cautious out here with lights, and just make the right decisions. And of course, you can always spot the eye shine. And as soon as you do, you just turn that spotlight and all your other lights off. Okay, that's Wendy heading back to camp. But do not worry, we shall be out tomorrow, and we will see you then.
So we're just trying to see if we can find this leopard again. I think from here on, BK, there we might just see her back in the leaves. Can you see how well she just blends in? I mean, see the movement there between the leaves? Like right in the middle of the screen. It's so hard to see her, but she is feeding off that impala. And it might be like after spending some time here, we'll probably move on because the view is not going to get better because of where she is. See, there's her head moving. And what she might do is, like, let's say it's a part of the impala that she hasn't fed off yet, so she might just pluck the hair to clean it up a bit before she'll open it up and then have that meat. And I wonder, maybe if she finishes, or she won't finish the whole carcass probably, but if she's going to go during the evening and call the youngs, then bring her to this tree to have some of the scraps. I mean, they do sharpen their claws when they climb the trees, but I don't think they will, like, they'll also stretch them. You'll sometimes see them, like a leopard would walk to a tree and then grab hold of the branch and then stretch her back, and then pull the claws into the tree. If it plays a massive role in sharpening, that I'm not too sure. I can't see how that would be, especially if she scratches against a tree. However, I mean, because those claws are tucked away, they will remain sharp until she needs them. And they are pretty sharp. I mean, a leopard, I have once before felt the claw of a lion. And this was quite a few years ago. There was one of the research companies showed us a claw of a lion, and we couldn't believe how sharp that was. And I can imagine a leopard must be just as sharp. It's just one of the animals that I definitely don't want to end up on the other side of those claws, because I'm sure it's a fight that one would remember. Danila, probably any tree the leopard can get that has a horizontal branch. We have seen them hoisted up into trees where you would think, how did a leopard get it up there? But ideally, so like this tree that we're looking at now is a marula tree. So a marula tree has a lot of horizontal branches where a leopard can lie down in, and also quite a few forks in the tree to basically hoist and pull the kill over. But it could be anything. It could be anything from a knobthorn to a jackalberry tree to a nyala tree to a marula to a russet bush willow, wherever they are capable of climbing up and hoisting it high enough so that it's out of the way for the hyenas to get it, and possibly even lions. I mean, a lion would be capable of climbing this tree, but she'll make sure that she'll hide it like as far as she can on the smallest branch that she can comfortably move across, so that if there would be any lions of that in the area that are capable of climbing trees, they won't be able to get to the carcass. But let's say if that should have happened, and let's say there are lions in the area and they do try and get up the tree, she's not going to stick around. Her first instinct is to get away, because the longer she stays in the area, especially with lions being in the area, the more chance of her potentially being killed by them. So predators in general hate one another because of the competition they have. And unfortunately, when lions move into an area, leopards try to hide themselves from those lions or move further away from them to avoid confrontation. Can you just hear how this leopard is crunching away? You can just hear the wind and the crunching now. Just listen to her plucking possibly some of the hair now. So let's try and hear it. It might be because of the wind that we can't hear it, but let's give it a few minutes. This mother is basically eating as much as she possibly can. Now, I can just consider her like with being a mother. So the youngster is already past the age where she's, it's already a while where she's not suckling, so she doesn't have to really care too much about eating in order to look after that particular youngster. But with her being a mother and hunting for herself and the youngster, she also needs to look after herself. So whenever she gets an opportunity like this, and with the youngster almost being close to 2 years now, she is getting to a stage where she is about to push her like a little bit more out of her area, or maybe even share the territory with her. But there will be boundaries, and they'll now and again cross those boundaries. However, her main focus now is to look after herself, so she needs to eat as much as she possibly can, because the chances are, if she had to make the kill, eat a little bit and then go and call the youngster, by the time she gets back, something else could have taken this kill. Because it's nighttime now, you don't really find the vultures or the eagles that will come for this kill, and it's also like very strategically based in the leaves where and amongst the branches where it's hard to see firstly, and secondly it's hard for a bird to get in there unless another leopard, like a male leopard, would move into the area and possibly try and steal the kill. Just see her eyes through the leaves there. I can always just imagine myself let's say if you had to walk here on foot and you had to walk past this tree, you would never know that there's a leopard inside here. What I'm going to ask BK, just to show everyone what I'm talking about, is I'm going to ask him just to zoom out a bit. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the IR filter and we're going to switch it off so that you can see what we are basically looking at the moment. So it's easier with the infrared and that to see her, but if we switch that off, that's basically what we're looking at. So we're going to switch it back on, and then let's see if we can find her again. I might have made it just slightly more difficult for BK, and I do apologize in advance, but I know he's a phenomenal cameraman, so he'll find that leopard for us again. There we go. Some movement in the back. With a leopard, some of the features we are looking out for is, of course, rosettes. So it looks like a bunch of spots that are fused together. So see on the bit that we can see here from that leopard, you'll see there's a couple of spots. Now, when those spots are fused together, they form a rosette. And a leopard is a lot more bulkier than a cheetah. So a cheetah have these tear marks that run along their eyes. They're a lot slender built and more found in open areas. Where leopards, of course, they're more found by themselves. Often here, whenever they make a kill, they'll hoist it up into a tree. A cheetah won't do that. A cheetah, if it makes a kill, it would feed as much as it can and it moves out of the area, because the longer it stays there, the more opportunity other animals, other predators can move into the area, which is dangerous for them. But a leopard, more bulkier, has rosettes. Their head itself is a lot bigger. And in this case, sometimes in the trees, where with cheetah, unless the tree is at a slight angle, where they can walk up, because remember, they don't have retractable claws, so they can't climb as well as a leopard. And of course, cheetah in comparison to leopard are more slender and taller, whereas a leopard is more robust. I'm pretty amazed how BK was able to find this leopard again. I mean, that was not an easy task, especially amongst walls, where almost all the leaves looks like the pattern of that leopard. But it's just been such a beautiful day. I mean, from all across the different reserves, and we've been so lucky with some rain today. It has limited us from going out early today to look for some of the animals, but I mean, after a beautiful afternoon with this female leopard and being able to spend some time here and just gauge a little bit of the story, as well as to see some of the other animals that have been seen, like the cheetah, the elephants, the buffalo. It's just been such an amazing afternoon across all the different reserves, and who knows what is in store for us tomorrow. But all I know from this female here, she's just going to enjoy her meal, nothing rushing her. Maybe later on going to call her youngster and bring her back here. So it might be worth it for us tomorrow morning to come back into this area and have a look and see if we can find her again with the youngster. So keep our fingers crossed, and hopefully we'll be able to do that. BK and I are just going to sit here and soak up this leopard as much as we possibly can, and just enjoy the wind through the leaves and watching some of the stars as they appear out of the clouds that are being blown over us.